You have lived your whole life inside a name that was given to you before you had any say in it, before you had any understanding of what it meant to exist. From your first moments, you were handed labels: boy, girl, child, student, quiet, loud, smart, stubborn, and you learned to wear them like clothes. Some fit comfortably, some scratched your skin, but all of them sank in so deeply, you began to believe they were you. You were not asked who you were. You were told, this is the strange inheritance of being human. You arrive as something unshaped, and the world cannot stand that kind of wildness. It rushes to define you. Parents, teachers, friends, strangers, they all draw lines around you and say, this is your shape. And you, being small and eager to belong, step into those lines as though they were the borders of your own soul. Without noticing, you start playing the role you've been handed. You become the responsible one, the rebel, the dreamer, the hard worker, the quiet type. You start repeating the lines written for you, thinking you wrote them yourself. But stop for a moment. Really stop. Who would you be without all that? If every memory of what others have said about you vanished, the praise, the criticism, the labels, the warnings, what would remain? Would there be a you left to find? Or would you be staring into an empty space, realizing that so much of what you call me is a mosaic of other people's expectations? Emerson once warned that the great danger of life is not failing, but succeeding at being what the world wants instead of who you truly are. And here is the quiet tragedy. You can live decades, even an entire lifetime, without ever meeting the person you were before the world taught you your name. The self you think you know is a story. It's a narrative you've been telling yourself for years, and like all good stories, it's been edited and rewritten to make sense. You cut out the parts that didn't fit the plot. You exaggerated the moments that made you look strong. You downplayed the ones that made you feel ashamed. Slowly, you became the main character of a script so familiar you no longer question whether it's fiction. You wake up every day and slip into the costume of yourself without realizing you are performing. This is the unsettling truth. Personality can be a mask so convincing you forget it's there. You might call yourself introverted or extroverted, confident or insecure, logical or emotional. But where did those words come from? Did you discover them in some silent communion with your own soul? Or did you overhear them in the mouths of others and decide they must be true? How much of you is the echo of other people's descriptions? And if the echo stopped, who would speak? Modern psychology tells us that identity is not a fixed thing, but a fluid process. The brain is not a monument carved in stone. It is a river. You are always becoming, always reshaping, always learning. Yet most of us freeze ourselves in time because it feels safer to be something solid than something uncertain. We cling to a definition because it gives us the illusion of control. I am this kind of person, we say, as though that settles the matter. But deep down, some part of you knows this is a fragile lie. The self is not a wall, it's a sky, and that sky contains storms you have never flown through, constellations you have never named. There are depths of you that have been hidden, not because they are gone, but because you've been taught not to look. Society tells you who to be in order to be loved, accepted, respected. It rewards the parts of you that fit and quietly punishes the parts that don't. You learn to suppress your wildest instincts, to edit your own emotions, to deny the parts of you that feel too dangerous to show. And you convince yourself that this edited version is the real you. This is why Emerson's call for self-reliance feels so radical, even today. He did not mean self-reliance in the shallow sense of doing everything alone or refusing help. He meant something far deeper, a reliance on the voice within you that is untouched by the noise outside. He meant trusting the whisper that comes before thought, before fear, before comparison. That voice is not loud. It does not shout to compete with the world. It waits. It waits for you to be still enough to hear it. But most of us are never still. We are constantly reflecting ourselves back through the eyes of others. We seek validation, applause, reassurance. We measure our worth by reactions, likes, smiles, nods, approval. And in doing so, we forget that the most important approval we will ever need is our own. Without it, we become strangers to ourselves, living lives designed for an audience we cannot even see. Think of all the choices you've made because you thought it's what you were supposed to do. The career path that impressed your parents, the way you dress because it fits your type, the hobbies you abandoned because they didn't match your image, the opinions you've repeated without truly questioning. These are the invisible strings that pull you. You call it your life, but often it is choreography, a dance whose steps were written by someone else. What would happen if you cut the strings? What if you stopped performing and let the unfiltered you step forward? Would your friends still recognize you? Would you recognize yourself? The answer might terrify you, because here is the truth few want to face. Authenticity is not comfortable. The real self is not always polite, not always consistent, not always safe. It may want things that disrupt the life you've built. It may challenge your relationships, your beliefs, your routines. It may break the version of you that you've spent years protecting. That is why so many never find it. They sense its presence and turn away. They choose the comfort of the mask over the risk of being bare. But Emerson would say that living behind a mask is the deepest kind of poverty. You may have wealth, respect, a reputation, but if you do not possess yourself, you have nothing. And possession of yourself does not mean clinging to a fixed identity. It means being willing to meet yourself again and again, to allow for change, to listen for the truth that rises in the silence after the world stops speaking. It also means accepting that who you are is not something you invent from scratch. There is a core beneath all the layers, not a list of traits, but a pulse, a living center that existed before you were told what to be. When you touch that center, there is no need for comparison, because it is not competing with anything. It is not trying to be better or worse. It simply is. Imagine stripping away every role, every label, every expectation. Imagine letting go of your name, your history, even the image you hold of your face. What would be left? Some would say nothing. Emerson would say everything. Because in that nakedness, you are not defined by circumstance. You are not bound by the past. You are simply alive, and that aliveness is the only real identity you have ever had. Yet the world does not reward this discovery. It rewards consistency, predictability, and conformity. It wants you to be a brand, a product that can be described in a sentence. It wants you to stay in your lane so others feel comfortable knowing where you stand. When you step outside that, you become unpredictable, and unpredictable people cannot be controlled. Perhaps that is why Emerson's words still burn like fire across time. They remind us that the highest law is the law of our own being, and that to obey it is to risk losing everything the false self has built. But what you lose in approval, you gain in truth. And truth, once tasted, is impossible to forget. So who are you, really? Are you the careful construction you've been maintaining for years, or the untamed presence beneath it? Are you the sum of other people's impressions, or the quiet witness behind your own eyes? Are you the actor, or the awareness watching? The performance, the unsettling possibility, is that you are both and neither. You are a story told in the language of the moment, constantly rewritten by the winds of experience. And yet, beneath the rewriting, there is something that does not change, something that is not born and does not die with your personality. Emerson called it the soul. Psychology might call it the core self. You might call it simply I. But whatever the name, it is the one part of you that has been here since the beginning, waiting for you to notice. And maybe that is the real journey of a life, not to become something new, but to return to what you already are. Not to build an identity from fragments, but to uncover the wholeness that was there before you learned to doubt it. To step beyond the mirrors of other people's opinions and stand in the light of your own being. The question is whether you are willing to face that light, because it will show you not just who you are, but who you are not. It will strip away the illusions that have kept you comfortable. It will demand that you stop hiding behind the excuse of "this is just who I am." It will show you that you have always been more than that, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So perhaps the only question worth asking is the one you have been avoiding all along. If you stopped believing every story you've been told about yourself, if you let the masks fall, if you stood there with nothing but the raw fact of your own existence, would you finally meet yourself for the first time? Or would you realize you have no idea who you have been living as all these years?